Yeah, hi, good morning. My name is Wolfgang. I'm the head of design at Ellie. And I'm super stoked to be here today, being able to hold the opening keynote at Hatch with so many wonderful people. So thanks for coming. I would like to take the opportunity to quickly say thank you to Team Hatch, to Damien and all the people behind the scenes. I think what you are pulling off is truly amazing. So thank you for having me and for doing this. I need to get out of the way. So let's start with an easy question. Who of you is a designer? Raise your hands. Oh, that's almost everybody, I would say, if not everybody. Cool. So that's perfect, because then you know everything about human-centered design, right? So today, I'm here to talk about human-centered design leadership. And we as designers, I mean, we focus on the users, right? So we all know everything about these kind of things we're going to talk about now. Human-centered design. What does it actually mean? And by the way, there's actually an ISO norm. I was very surprised. So next time anybody at your company wants to implement an ISO norm, maybe challenge them to also consider implementing this one. Human-centered design. It aims to make a system usable and useful by focusing on the users, right? That's what we do as designers. And the other thing we do is we focus on the users via user-centered design, right? So, and another, you know, what user-centered design is, but we know all that. Designers focus on the users, their needs in each and every phase of the design process. Perfect, exactly. And this applies to everything we do. User interface design, UX design, research, sound design, motion design, you name it. Everything, the user is always at the core. And as designers, we most likely also know the 10 usability heuristics from Jacob Nielsen. My favorites are actually number 1 and number 5. Visibility of system status and error prevention. Really important. But we are designers, we know everything about this. Same for the 10 principles by Dieter Rams, right? We know these as well. We apply them because we focus on the user every minute of the day, basically. Everything we do, we try to ensure that the user is at the center of everything. And for that, of course, we follow the double diamond design process. Sometimes more streamlined, sometimes more like that, but we know what it is, we apply it, we use it, because we think of the user first. And we do that sprint after sprint after sprint. Of course, to ship products with great experiences and to add business value to the company, to get the famous seat at the table, right? We want to show and prove ourselves what we can actually bring, to avoid mistakes like Citibank unfortunately did last year and lost about 500 million because of a not so great user interface. So what I'm saying is, the user is at the heart of everything we do. The only thing we think about is the user. But aren't we forgetting something? So if I think about it like two sides of a coin, you know, the one side is the user. What's on the flip side? Exactly, us, the designers, the people actually doing the work. But who thinks of the designers? Who's taking care of them? The manager, of course. Right. The manager, that's what their job is. But is it? Or are they actually taking care of the designers? So who of you actually is a manager? That's quite some. Luckily, not as many as designers. That's always a good start. Question is, who of you ever had a bad manager? That's, oh wow, way too many hands going up in the crowd here. This is actually not too surprising, to be honest. So I spent some time and I ran a highly sophisticated survey, and I asked people, did you ever have a bad manager? And what better place to run this survey than on, you guessed it, Twitter. A lot of opinions and a lot of votes, and the results are quite clear. So what do you think? Do people have bad managers or not? Lots of nodding. Yep, You're absolutely right. Majority of people seem to have really, really terrible managers. And I'm really sorry about that. The thing is, I also had a lot of bad managers in my time. I had one manager telling me, or I had one manager who, during brainstorming sessions, would audibly sigh and criticize people when they would throw out ideas. You know, like in the one moment where you should come up with ideas and not being criticized. I had one manager who claimed my ideas as theirs in front of myself and their boss. That was very early in my career, and I was totally not prepared, so I just stayed silent. But it was a really bad feeling. So if that ever should happen to you, be prepared. And I had a manager, a remote manager, many years ago, who actually told me, nobody cares what you're doing over there anyways. But I think the worst thing I've ever heard from a former manager was this one: spend less time with your people. That somehow stuck with me in a negative way, obviously. And the question really was, how does it make me feel? You know, in that moment I want to say considering life choices, but close enough. But to sum it up, these kind of things are really demotivating. Right? If somebody says these things to you or treats you this way, and I'm not sure if you had similar experiences or not, I hope not, but it's just not a good thing to do. Which brings me to this wonderful quote, which always makes the rounds on LinkedIn, yeah, from Marcus Buckingham. People leave managers, not companies. It's a nice quote. It can be spot on, but often it's also, well, unless your manager is the worst ever, more things have to come together to make you leave a company, but that's only my experience. The thing is, the good thing about me having lots of bad managers in the past is they taught me how not to do it. They taught me how not to be a manager, you know? And the good managers I had some, luckily, they actually taught me how to do it, which I tried to turn into some of my leadership principles, how I treat people, where I put the focus on. And I would sum it up in one sentence, which is, if you focus on the people, everything else will follow. So opposed to what my former manager told me not to spend time, I would highly suggest to do the opposite. Do spend time with your people. Have regular one-on-ones with them. Really understand them. Understand where they're coming from, understand their background, their motivation, their goals. Why are at this company? Where do they want to go? Where do they see themselves in 2, 5, 10 years? And when you have meetings and one-on-ones with them, listen and shut up. And by that I mean you really should actively listen to what people have to say. You should not, while the person is talking to you, already think about what to say next, what to answer, what to reply, what kind of remedies to offer, what kind of doors to open to them, what kind of connections to make. Don't think, just listen and take in what the people are saying. You need to understand their motivation, their goals, where they want to go, how they can grow. And then, based on this information you can get from them, you need to build opportunities, create opportunities for them, based on their goals, based on their motivation, based where they are in that point in their career. You need to empower and trust people. And the trust thing, to me, is a really interesting topic. There is this quote by the founder of Under Armour: "Trust is built in drops and lost in buckets," which a former manager of mine loved to quote. And it kind of resembles to how I learned to deal with trust myself, in the sense of you always have to build trust with people. You have to repeatedly do a good job with things, and then you slowly climb on the trust ladder towards somebody else, which is, I find, usually the way people think about it. And for sure, it applies for a clothing brand. When you buy a pair of shoes and they maybe only last a year, yeah, I'm probably not going to buy another shoe of that brand in the future, right? So it kind of makes sense. The funny thing is, or the interesting thing though is, during my time at Nokia, there was a new VP. And when he came in, he said this during one of the first town halls: "I trust you. You do not have to earn my trust." And to be honest, at this time I thought, this is just one of those leadership quotes, you know, they put on decks like I'm doing it now. But it stuck with me. And over the years, I kept thinking about it. And it's actually something really, really important because it eliminates what I mentioned earlier. You do not have to build trust with people. You can write out trust them. You don't need a process that people have to prove themselves to you, but you can just trust them. Define the North Star for people, for the people in your team. What do we want to actually achieve? And then let the people handle it. As managers, we don't have to micromanage people. We should do the opposite. We should let people handle it and get out of their ways. Which is also what former Netflix engineer Dave Hahn said. Very nice quote. We hire smart people and get out of their ways. Yeah, that's the whole point of hiring smart people, right? We want to enable them. We don't want to stand in their ways. We want them to do a great job. The things we hired them for. Seems logical, but often it's not. What we have to offer people is an environment, a good mix out of change and stability, which is actually from the book Herding Tigers by Todd Henry. It's a good book, I highly recommend. He talks about challenge and stability. He has this matrix, which is fantastic. You need to have a good stability and you have a reasonable amount of challenges. So I'll give you two examples from my past. I used to work at one company years back where when I started, 3 out of the 5 people who interviewed me already left the company. You know, it was just like zero stability and a lot of challenges. There was nothing for me. It was close to a nightmare. But I also experienced the opposite a couple of years ago. I used to work at a company, pretty much 8 to 4:30. There was high stability, but zero challenges. It was really people coming in, doing their job, and leaving. And that was also nothing for me. So it's really important to give people stability, be there for them, but also challenge them. Because through challenges, we grow. Former CEO Bill McDermott from SAP, during one of the town halls, said, "We don't need managers, we need leaders." Which is, again, one of these nice quotes you can put on LinkedIn or on like, hang in there, kitty cat on the wall. But what it means to me is, we say we lead by example for a reason and not we manage by example. The thing for me is when I work in a company, or when I'm being hired at a company, I'm being hired for my experience maybe, for my knowledge maybe for my design skills, I'm not so sure. But I'm mainly hired for who I am, like the person I am, what I bring to the table, how I talk, how I address things, how I try to solve problems, how to bring people together, right? How to make others succeed. And to me, this is more on the leadership side than on the management side, but we'll see. Most importantly for me is, when I work, I bring myself to work. I am human. I do good things, I have flaws, lots of them. Just ask my wife. But this is what I do. I come to work, I'm trying to be myself. I try to be open. I really dislike these closed-door meetings. I like to bring people along the journey. Because for me, it's important that people understand what decisions are made, why decisions are being made, and not just like, this is what we do, go, but really explain to people the decision-making process, what led to this kind of decision we made, for people to understand and to buy into what we do. And I try to be open to feedback. In most of the companies I worked, and with most of the people I worked, we are always afraid, I find, to give feedback, to have a proper feedback culture. You know, at least for myself, I always feel like I'm criticizing somebody, I want to step on somebody's toes, but I think it's very important for people to give and receive feedback. I want to receive feedback because of all the flaws I have. It might sound like a little bit like a cliche, but I think as a leader, you also need to be a rock for your team. You need to be there for your people to talk to make time for them, to be really there to have their backs. This is very important, and in my experience, that does not happen often enough. A thing I like to say is, for the people I work with, I like to open doors. For the people on my team, open doors to new opportunities or make introductions to people who will make their life easier, their work life. While also closing doors. You know, when people on my team work on something, they're really busy and somebody else comes and says, hey, can you do this? And no, leave this person alone. This person is busy. They're working on something important. So I'm going to close this door right there in your face. Sorry, come back later. A nice summary of what a leader's job is by Patty McCord, the former Chief Talent Officer of Netflix. A business leader's job is to create great teams that do amazing work on time. And I think that perfectly sums up what leaders should do, what everybody should do. But what is really important is that people want to be valued. And I say be, not feel valued. They need to be valued. And that counts for everybody, including myself, including managers and leaders out there. And it's really baffling at times that we know that we want to be valued. So how hard can it be to show this being valued to the people we work with? It shouldn't be that hard, actually. Especially nowadays, with all the things going on, right? It's not just work. It's beyond that. So, if I want to sum it up, my goal as a leader is I want to enable people to be their best selves so that they can do their best work. I want to make sure that people are in a good place. Because if people are in a good place, I can put my team in a good place. If my team is in a good place, I can put myself as part of the team in a good place. When my whole team, including myself, is in a good place, we are in a position to positively influence other teams in the organization. And the good thing is, if you put people in a good place, they can tackle almost anything because they are there with you. And the wonderful side effect of all these things, if you do them, when you spend time with your people, it gets easier because you understand your people better. You understand their background, their goals, their motivation. And then you can tailor opportunities to them, how they can grow, what they can do, how they can improve themselves. For your benefit, for their benefit and for yours, because you are part of that team. You will want them to succeed just as like they will want to succeed. You are in this together. And you have an opportunity and a chance to really build long-lasting relationships beyond the now. So in my case, it's like I had the opportunity to work with a lot of wonderful and smart and brilliant people over the last 20 plus years. And I'm lucky enough to still be in touch with quite some of them. Text, phone calls, online meetings. And I'm still so close to them that it makes me unbelievably happy to see, for example, on LinkedIn, when they got a new amazing job at this wonderful company, how they grow and how they succeed in the future. Because I always hope that maybe, just maybe, a little bit of something I helped them with in the past, help them maybe a little bit on their career path for the future. But of course, I know what many of you are going to say. We don't have time for this, right? We all have to run. We have to ship stuff. Of course. But I think we have to ask ourselves, we are not running from something. We are running towards something. We have a common goal, what we are working on. And it would make all our lives easier if we would bring the people along to that journey. But let me give you an analogy. You're all designers, you know how important design systems are. Sarah knows. Design systems make a designer's life easier. It's as simple as that. Focusing on the people has the same benefits. It might mean more effort in the short term, but it also comes with greater benefits in the long run. So, to all the managers and everybody else, I would like to ask you to be the leader your team deserves, starting today. Thank you.